It's Kevin Keatsman Uncanceled on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. I am your one-quarter Irish host for the day, Kevin Keatsman, wearing absolutely nothing green. I've known all morning it was St. Patrick's Day. I mentioned it on the podcast I did today. I was watching Rory McIlroy from Northern Ireland win a golf tournament this morning that didn't finish yesterday. There was a 3-hole playoff at the Players this morning, and everybody was wearing green. I got behind, ran up, took a quick shower, grabbed the first thing I could find and threw it on, and I got nothing green on. But I will fix that later in the day, and I promise you the show will be better than my wardrobe today. We've got that ahead on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7. A lot of topics from over the weekend and a lot of things going on. We're going to get to many of them, including the dude I have a man crush on, Stephen Miller from the White House, is getting a lot of credit for something really important that happened over the weekend. We will cover that for you. Another MSNBC anchor is not out, but she's out on her party. We're going to get with Mark at the end of the show and talk NCAA tournament brackets a little bit and controversy around not just North Carolina basketball, but North Carolina football. Bill Belichick making some waves around North Carolina as well. A lot of Chiefs fans like to see odd stuff with Bill Belichick, so we'll get to that. And then the Vince Show coming up at 11 o'clock, the very first, right here on KCMO Talk Radio. We look forward to that at 11. So I get back from being out of town for a couple of weeks where we've been hosting the show out in Arizona. And, of course, you get home and you've got a whole bunch of mail. And we had some of it stopped for a while because we knew we were going to be gone. But I got a bunch of my neighbors' mail. And they got a bunch of these special election mailers from Johnson County, Kansas. And then I kept sorting through, and then, I got one. And I'm like, here's another one. This is now 4. Jessica got one. Wait, there's 2 more. One for my 35-year-old son who lives in Glendale, Arizona. The other for my 31-year-old son that lives in Austin, Texas. I've got 6 of these at my house. 6. I don't have to tell my neighbors. I don't have to do anything. The envelope is daunting. It says Johnson County, Kansas Election Office. Special mail election, official ballot. Election day. Big, bold point. April 1st, 2025. I'm like, well, what the heck is this? I don't know about anything that's on my ballot, April 1st. So I grab it and I open it up like the really, really good conservative I am. And I open it and it says, special mail ballot enclosed. Return by mail or return to drop box. Now I'm really curious what's on the ballot because I can't go vote in person. So Johnson County and the state of Kansas are telling me I can't go vote in person. I have to do this with what they've sent me. That's item number 2. Now I go to item number 3. Item number 3 is the ballot. If you're watching the stream, here's the ballot. Item number 3 is a 3/8 of 1 cent sales tax, just like the one Jackson County voted on last April for the Royals and Chiefs. Except this one is the city of Lenexa. What? We have what everybody melted down over last year in Jackson County, the 3/8 cents sales tax that's been ongoing. Okay, keep it. The teams want their money, all this other stuff. Lenexa's doing that. It says to fund street infrastructure, develop parks and recreation facilities, or C. Oh, this is good. All things related to and necessary to construct projects, including bonds and other obligations. Huh? We have our first Democrat mayor in Lenexa in my lifetime. She wanted to turn the La Quinta Inn at 95th and I-35 into a homeless shelter. She wanted county funds, but she wanted Lenexa funds. Lenexa told her to go fly a kite. People of Lenexa weren't having it. They don't want that shelter at 95th and I-35. We know what comes with those places. We've seen it in Denver. We've seen it in Portland. There are plenty of cities in America. We know exactly what happens when they take old hotels and they turn them into homeless shelters. It sounds like the right thing to do. It is the wrong thing to do. It's especially wrong for the people that live nearby. The crime circle around those places is outrageous. Crime always goes up around those places. Always. Get this. This 3/8 of a cent sales tax continues until 2048. Okay, so forget the sales tax. It's been ongoing. We've been paying it. And let's just say there is a lot with roads and different things. I'm cool with that. She's clearly not going to spend all of this on a homeless shelter because the tax goes until 2048. And again, this is an extension. We've been paying it. I might normally vote yes if it weren't for the homeless shelter and some other things. But now that we have a Democrat mayor, and for the first time in my lifetime, I got a ballot in the mail that says I can only mail this, or I can drop it at the Blue Valley Library, which is nowhere near Lenexa. I can go to, how about this? This is convenient. The Gardner Library. I can take a whole bunch of these, all 6 of them from my house to the Gardner Library and drop them off. I can put them all in the mail. It's free. It's got return service paid for. I have 6 ballots at my house. There is no way this initiative fails. They have set this up with a mail-in vote. This is a complete and utter scam, and that's my protest. I'm voting no. I'm voting no on the tax. I don't like taxes to begin with, but this is my city. I understand what the tax is for, and it's streets and roads, and it's been ongoing. I'm generally speaking probably okay with this tax as long as it's not for the homeless shelter. But what I'm really upset about is we now have a Democrat mayor and a Democrat council in Lenexa, and they're sending us mail ballots that I don't ever remember getting. Maybe I got them before. Maybe I chucked them. I don't know. This looks like a total scam to me. If I can't go vote in person, I know which party benefits. That's science. Okay, follow the science, right? I'm a radio host. I am science. I'm like Fauci. I'm science. I'm a radio host. Can you not see that I'm a host? That's science. We know who wins these elections. The Democrats, whatever they want them every time. And there's little doubt that what they want is for this to pass and get all these tax dollars. Be on the lookout for stuff like this. And how do we stop it? I'm going to call my councilman, who's actually only lives a few streets over from where I live. And I'm going to let him know that I think this is just absolutely wrong. Why would you send these out through Johnson County in the state of Kansas, have those seals all over them, and it's simply a Lenexa? This is a pretty serious deal. I'm sorry, a 3/8 cent sales tax until 2048 when I'm probably dead and gone? Seriously, this is a real, and you're doing this April 1st through mail-in and drop boxes? That doesn't seem like democracy to me. Not happy with that. We have to get rid of these ways of voting. But we have some great news out there. We have a poll that shows that the country right now is in the right direction. 44% of the people in America right now believe that the country is headed in the right direction. That is the first time since 2004 that is the case. It's been 2004 since it's been that high. So we're at a 21-year high for right direction in America. Now think about 2004. We were on right direction roll for about 2 or 3 years there right after 9/11. Because this country in 2001 after 9/11 came together. By the end of a year later, 2002, we were all rowing in the same boat saying we want to go kill somebody. You know, we didn't really care who, and so it wound up being the Iraq War. You know, we just wanted a pound of flesh from somebody. They took our buildings down, and we're going to go get something. Americans were united and agreed on that. We were too quick to draw. We made mistakes, but we were in agreement. So the country largely thought it was on the right direction because we were taking vengeance out on those that attacked us. That means right now, since this is the highest it's been since 2004, the Biden presidency was the equivalent of 9/11 for voters. That the reaction after 3 years, or 4 years is were the case of Joe Biden, or 3 years after 9/11 in 2004 is the same. Somebody comes in, we change direction, or in this case, George W. Bush was going to be up for re-election. He won, and we did what we did, and everybody seemed to be in agreement. They're basically comparing the last comp to Joe Biden's presidency is 9/11. That's really it. That's the reason we're in agreement that we're on the right direction. I'd like to give all this credit to Trump. He's done a lot of great things, and he's the recipient of it, but it wouldn't have taken much change. You could have put a rhino in there right now, and America would be like, well, this is a hell of a lot better than what we had. Most people are seeing that, and a weekend poll that was released by NBC now says that Democrats, I think Vince Colonnese just mentioned this, only 7% of Americans view the Democratic Party as very favorable. That is an all-time low, 7%. Yet it is the 7% that are controlling that party. They're all mad at Chuck Schumer for the continuing resolution. Every time you see one of these clowns on TV from the far left, the progressives, spewing their stuff, they're spewing it for the 7% of the people that see this as very favorable. Where do they think those people are going to go? I don't ever understand catering to like the ultra base of your party. I understand catering to your base, but when you're talking about 7% of the wackos out there view the party very favorably, those aren't the people you need to cater to. There's nowhere to go. This crazy lady on MSNBC, Simone Sanders, she switched parties. She's so mad at Chuck Schumer, she can't believe it. She says, that's it. I'm going to switch. I'm an independent. Well, what does that do? Who else can you vote for? You're not going to be an independent and vote for Trump. If you're so mad at Schumer and you're so much farther left than that, what's your option as an independent? And really, what are you saying to the world by saying you're an independent? I don't respect that. I respect Rosie O'Donnell more than that. At least she actually left the country. She said she was going to do it, and she did it. She's trying to become an Irish citizen. Good for her. I can respect that. I think she's crazy, but I can respect it. But I'm going to switch to be an independent because Mitt Romney is my candidate or John McCain. I didn't like those candidates, but I didn't switch my party. These people are nuts, man. And only 7% of this country, when polled, says they view very favorably the Democrat Party. Pretty much all you need to know. 913-408-7957 is the number to call. If you'd like to join in and join the show, I'd love to hear from you. 913-408-7957. This is Kevin Keatsman Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio. Oh, here's the best part of the Lenexa voter scam. Mail-in Dropbox ballot for April 1st on the sales tax. I'm safe here. I have 6 of these, which is good. The last thing it says on here, I further declare that I have not transmitted or delivered more than 10 ballots on behalf of other persons in this election. I mean, it's just right there for you. This is a total scam. Anybody that gets it, you can do 10 of these. You do more than 10, that's trouble. How many Democrats do you think the mayor of Lenexa is rounding up to find these ballots laying all over the place and do 10 each? It says, check this box if delivering ballot for other voter. Right there.
So, like, with your sons, would it have to have their signature?
No.
Oh.
No,
okay.
My signature. I write my name in the signature, and I'm saying that I'm delivering it for them. As long as I have the ballot. I just have to have their ballot.
Wow.
It's right there. Just sign and go. So I've got 2 for my neighbor. I've got 2 sons, and I have me and Jessica's. I can fill all 6 out and control this baby.
And deliver them.
I know. If I hang around by the mailbox, I'll probably find a couple more.
Oh, yeah, you guys kind of have the group mailbox thing, don't you?
Dude, I'd laugh, except this is just tragic that this is happening. City of Lenexa, shame, shame, shame on you. If they put this at the ballot last November, would it have passed? My bet is no, it would not have passed. When people show up and vote in person and ask if they want a tax, they're voting no. This is just complete circumvention of democracy. I'm sorry. It's disgusting. Let's see what Leonard has to say about it today. Hi, Leonard. You're on Uncanceled. Good morning to you, sir.
Hey, Keith. When you got home and you were searching through your mail and everything, did you feel kind of like, man, I'm an important guy here. People in this household are pretty important here.
Because I got 6 ballots? Because 6 ballots or because of other stuff?
Just getting all those ballots, you're thinking, my gosh, and then you open them up and you realize the game they're playing.
It's a total scam. I can't even believe it. I thought we were past this. I don't know how they're doing this in Lenexa.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Missouri has no idea about what Kansas is about to do to them. I mean, just how does this sound? I'm setting the table for what's going on in this the surrounding Kansas City area. Johnson County, surrounding counties are going to get $1 trillion put into their economy in the next 5 years. And Jackson County, surrounding counties, their houses like in Blue Springs and Lee Summit that they're going for $300,000. They'll be going for $180,000, $200,000 and everything. Because when this when this property tax governor gets voted in there, all these people, they're already buying. They've got the lumber and everything. They're going to have these rich people buying these houses in Johnson County, and they're going to need all kinds of stuff to live, and it's going to turn this economy around.
Okay.
Kansas.
I won't argue, maybe what's going to happen. I don't know where you come up with your numbers. I think you're throwing darts at $1 trillion in Kansas. That sounds a little high to me.
Well, I mean,
come on.
When you when you look at the all the houses that are going to be building and the income and everything, when that gets passed and people, they're going to be buying houses in Johnson County in Kansas because they can't trust what their property taxes are going to go out. So there's going to be more houses.
We'll see.
They're going to need more stuff to spend.
We'll see. I don't want to poo-poo you or anything like that. We'll see what happens with the economy and where we are going forward here. There's a lot of things that look like they're kind of on hold. The Fed's probably going to hold interest rates again this week. Stock market doesn't like the shift from income tax to tariffs. We've talked about that. Interest rates, mortgages have been down 6 of the last 7 weeks. That's a good thing. Inflation's coming down. But that's what everybody wants to see before our economy can go gangbusters. What Trump's doing and what you're talking about, Leonard, we can't unleash that until we know that the inflation's taken care of. It's looking good on those fronts. Again, I'm not trying to be negative here. A couple months into the Trump administration, I love it. I love everything I've seen. And if I were 80 or 85 years old and spending my nest egg every month and watching it dwindle and seeing what's happening in the markets, I'd probably be a little concerned. But most people have time on their side. I definitely have a year or two to wait for this thing to go gangbusters again on a lot of fronts, whether that's interest rates, the economy, the stock market, whatever it may be. I'm okay with that. I am all good with roll up our sleeves. Let's do the dirty work. Let's do the hard stuff. But we have to be careful while we do the hard stuff that we don't crush people. We can't have gaps in our society of people that are, down to their last $30,000 of life savings, and they're 83 years old and still healthy, and they've been taking $1,000 a month out or something, $2,000 a month out in addition to their Social Security to get by and make sure that they're living and everything's okay. We can't crush those people. We have to be careful that we're not doing that at the same time. So I appreciate Leonard's exuberance for the economy booming, and maybe I don't think $1 trillion is coming to the state of Kansas, but that would be wonderful. I guess they'd have to win the United States lottery or something to do something like that. But they got to be careful here. We can't do too much too fast. It is very, very exciting, and the good things that are happening out there way, way, way outweigh the bad. When we come back in a little bit, I'm going to talk a little bit about these Venezuelans, these 261 dudes that got sent to El Salvador. This is the most brilliant plan I've ever seen. And it's going to be really hard for Democrats to shut it down. They're trying. We'll probably wind up very quickly in front of the Supreme Court, but we're going to find out. There is good news all over the place. Trump's now doing shut down the Biden pardons. He has posted today that the pardons were done by auto-signature, auto-sign, and they don't know who was responsible for that, but it wasn't Joe Biden signing those orders to give all these pardons to Fauci and others and the J6 committee and all those people. So Trump says they are not valid and those do not apply, that those pardons don't apply. We'll see. It's all obviously that's going to wind up in court. But I love this one. The first new wall contract was given out over the weekend or announced. A company called Granite Construction out of California is going to work in the Rio Grande sector in Hidalgo, Texas. 7 miles of brand new wall being built by the Trump administration for $70 million. Sounds expensive, but these are expensive walls. And if they do the work as things go, that's important work. And I'm good with it. But it's good to see the first contract has been announced to a company to build more border walls. So we're getting these things done. And Trump is even going to talk to Putin tomorrow, which is kind of a cool thing. Let's see if we can get that war ended. It sounds like really all Putin wants is an assurance that Ukraine is never part of NATO. I don't know one American that would have trouble with that. All right, we come back. We can take more of your phone calls. And I want to talk about these prisoners we've got, these people, these folks we sent to El Salvador. This is unbelievable. Next on Uncanceled. You remember those dreaded email requests that Elon Musk asked for about a month ago? You got to send me the 5 things you did last week or whatever the number would be. There's a dude on X now that every weekend posts, "Dear Elon, here are the 5 things I accomplished this week." And then he signs it President Trump. It's unbelievable because, most people, they were just asked, made a phone call to a possible advertiser, talk to Mark about the final segment of the show, like whatever it may be, right? And so this guy this week, this is a good one. "Dear Elon, here are the 5 things I accomplished this week. 1, I won my club's golf championship. 2, I killed the leader of ISIS. 3, deported planes full of gang members. 4, lowered gas, eggs, and inflation. 5, set up Russia and Ukraine ceasefire. Sincerely, President Trump." He has pretty good weeks. And of all those things, I'm not getting into the golf thing. I don't know how a 78-year-old wins their club championship, but I'll leave that for another day. Good for him. He did it. I'm interested in these 261 Venezuelan gangbangers that were sent to El Salvador. I think you may recall about a month ago, I spoke for a few minutes about this prison called CICAT in El Salvador. It's been profiled in documentaries, 60 Minutes, a lot of different places. Most of them that go profile it are like, we want to show you how inhumane this is, that this is cruel and unusual punishment at this prison, but then they all have to put in the story, this has really worked. In El Salvador, they had a terrible gang violence problem, huge problems, just like the cartels in Mexico. Complete and utter disaster. They decided a few years ago to start building a new prison and a new way of putting people in prison and how to treat them when they're there. And what has happened with the crime rate in El Salvador is dramatic. And Trump knows of this, and Stephen Miller knows of this, the senior advisor to the president, who I think is the second most important person in the administration, because I think Elon Musk is only there for a little while. He's going to do a job and set the thing up and move on. But Stephen Miller is the gift that keeps on giving. Stephen Miller he is sort of in charge of, let's call it international air. I know Tom Homan's the border czar, Kristi Noem's Homeland Security, and all these other things. He works in conjunction with them because he is right at Trump's side. And he says, all right, we got 261 of these people. We got to get them in the air. Because he's hearing that some judge is going to sign an order and make it illegal for Trump to use this little-known law from 1798 that says if you're at war, you can take a foreign national that you have in custody and deport them to another country, not of their origin, somebody who's your ally. You don't have to keep them in basically prison camps or like we see in war. You don't have to keep them here in the United States. You can send them elsewhere if it's your ally. So Trump has declared war on the cartels, and he's declared these people terrorists, Tren de Aragua. And we have an ally in El Salvador because he's worked out a deal to pay them $6 million to house gang members for 1 year. They were thrilled to have the influx of cash. Trump would tweet after the weekend was over, thanks to El Salvador, quote, we will never forget. They got these 261 up in the air over international water when the judge tried to stop it. This is a progressive, far-left liberal judge who, along with the ACLU and other organizations, support Venezuelan gangs over American citizens. And they don't want them deported. They darn sure don't want them sent to El Salvador because they're from Venezuela. We will send regular illegals back to their home country. We're doing that all over the place. Tom Homan has said it's a flight every day now. We're sending people home. Other countries are taking them back. These are the lesser people. These are, maybe you had a DUI, maybe you had a domestic disturbance, you've cheated on your finances or something. Tren de Aragua is a totally different deal. 261 of them on the plane, and the video's available to see everywhere. It's just now getting released more into the mainstream media, but it was everywhere yesterday. Because in El Salvador, what they do, when they take you to this prison, CICAT, they film it all. They show you how bad it is, and then they send it out to the world. And they say the last thing you want to do is be in this prison. Right now, 2 days in, these 261 Venezuelans that are in this prison would already rather be dead. I can promise you. The conditions in this prison are not what you see in the movies. It's not rat-infested and crumbling walls and rust everywhere and disgusting, dirty, filthy confines. It is well lit. It is steel and metal. It doesn't look like any prison you've ever seen. Insanely high ceilings. Think of it like a warehouse. Insanely high ceilings where they don't stack the cells on top of each other. It's just one giant cell with some beds that sort of attach to the wall that have no mattresses, nothing to lay on. There's 50 or 60 men in each cell. They are packed in like sardines. They are lit up with fluorescent light like crazy. Sound is pumped in. They get one bucket of water to share. It's a giant big bucket of water, and they have one toilet for the 60 of them. There is no place to go out and play basketball. There is no going to the lunchroom. There's none of this. You're in confinement. You're in there with these other really bad dudes. and we keep the lights on so you can't sleep. We pump music in so if you do sleep, because you will eventually sleep, it's not REM sleep. We're going to wake you up. These are walking zombies that want to die. Is it cruel and unusual? I'll let you decide for yourself. Here's what I'll tell you. Trump could have lined up a firing squad and shot all these people from Venezuela, and it wouldn't have been as effective as sending them to this place. Because all the bad people, the really bad people in the world, the cartels, the gang violence, the terrorists, they don't mind getting sent to Gitmo. Gitmo sounds like a picnic. You're in Cuba. Weather's great, the whole deal. This prison in El Salvador, nobody wants it. They got these dudes in shackles coming off the buses. They put them down on the ground, and it looks like execution style. And you're like, oh, this isn't good. And they just start shaving their hair off, and they're ripping their clothes off, and they make them wear this uniform thing. It's unbelievable what they do to these guys and how much force there is in all of it. There's no getting out of anything. They're not free within their cell. Most of the time that they're in there, they've got stuff, they're cuffed and whatnot. If I'm not mistaken, when I watched this 60 Minutes piece, one of the things they do is they will routinely take a giant fire hose, and in order to clean them, they'll keep them in their cell, and they'll just spray them all. They'll spray them all clean. It's unbelievable. And it doesn't look all that dirty. It just looks horrible. They look so miserable, so filled with regret and remorse and lost. Can you imagine not being able to sleep? They're keeping the lights on 24 hours a day. They're pumping music in. You might be able to get a cat nap for 20 minutes here or there, but the other guys are all awake. You better learn to sleep with noise and light if you're going to sleep. Maybe that's cruel and unusual. Maybe you're hearing this thinking that's just a terrible thing to do to other human beings. But most people that are in there will tell you that they would have rather been dead. They'd like to find a way to not be of this earth anymore and move on. And Stephen Miller is the guy behind it that got this plane out before this crazy judge signed this order. And maybe we'll have a national discussion. Should we put them in a prison like this? I know this, that prison can't operate in America. And I also know this, Trump sent a powerful statement to the drug cartels in Mexico and all the other gangs from the other countries that have been operating here. You mess with me, I'm going to the Supreme Court. I'm getting a green light. I'll send you to CCOT. We'll send them $2 billion and have them build that sucker bigger. We'll make that the biggest detention facility in the world and stuff it filled with all you people over the next 4 years. Because once the Supreme Court says this is legal, because he's declared war on the terrorists and the cartels and the gangs, watch out. We'll send everybody there, and they're out of our hands. And to be honest with you, I'm not a big tax and spend guy. I'd rather pay El Salvador to do this job than Leavenworth or any place in the United States. Why should we be doing it? Why should we allow these people from Venezuela to come do the horrific things that they've done because they're in this gang, and then they get the rights of American citizens in our prisons? How about this? How about you come from another country and you're illegal and you commit those crimes here? We're going to send you to El Salvador where you get their rights. Not from the country which you came and not from where you got caught. You get to be an El Salvadoran in prison, and it's not going to go well for you. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm a bad person. I think this is brilliant. I am all on board with this. Send them to the worst place on earth. Let's use the laws on our books from 200 years ago to our advantage. It's fantastic. Stephen Miller is the guy that finds these things. He's the senior advisor for policy. They run it by all the lawyers. Miller comes up with the ideas, folks. I'm going to tell you right now. You think Trump has all these ideas. He's got a lot of great ideas. Stephen Miller is, you talk about an idea guy. This guy has all the ideas, and they're all just ruthless. I don't think he can ever run for office. I don't think he's a politician type, but he is absolutely ruthless to the core. And he tells, I wonder how many things, I wonder if there's a day where we're going to come out, Trump's going to come out, and you know what? I've heard Stephen Miller come up with 50 ideas that said I'm not even doing that. Because I guarantee you he comes up with things like that. So this is all Miller's idea, and he's executing. He got the first 261 of them out, and I think that's just fantastic. And Tom Homan was asked, when's the next flight? He goes, we're doing a flight every day. Now, he didn't mean these hardened criminals to El Salvador. I think what he meant is there's a flight leaving every day of illegals that we have caught that are lesser criminals going back to their own home countries, where their country will accept them. They've promised to jail them, keep them there, so they're not our problem. And even if they did come back, these aren't the gangsters. These aren't the terrorists. These aren't the ones plotting to blow things up and do terrible things to us. We haven't even gotten to Middle Eastern terrorism yet. I've not seen really any roundup of that. The college students won. He's all on Hamas's side. But we really haven't seen any crackdown against what we believe are terrorists from the Middle East that have entered over the last 4 years. I think that's coming too. And I hope that we can get this thing completely and finally approved, because right now there's a freeze on it until the Supreme Court rules. That's where we should send terrorists from the Middle East. You want to stop them coming to America to try to do harm to us? Send them to that prison in El Salvador. I'm telling you, there's glory in them dying. They'll do suicide missions. We're not stopping that. Middle Eastern terrorists are a different breed. They come over and they don't mind blowing themselves up because they think all the virgins are waiting for them in heaven or whatever. But the ones that want to come over and plot this stuff and get involved and can get caught, and they think they're going to get sent to Gitmo or a prison here in the United States, and that's it, they need to think again, because none of these people want to go to El Salvador. They all know about this prison, CCOT, and that is the last place on earth they want to be. They'd rather be dead. Let's catch them, let's send them, and let's pay for it. Sounds like the American way. When you're the richest country, you ought to be able to do things like this. Is it circumventing what Americans think of the law? No, because the laws of our prisons here apply to us because we're citizens. That's a totally different standard than somebody from another country who invades us and tries to do harm to us. Sorry, it's just another standard. And I'm going to guarantee you it doesn't. El Salvador is not following the Geneva Convention. They're not. That's not in play. 913-408-7957 is the number to call. We come back. We got some fun stuff to talk about. We'll get into some brackets with Mark, and I've got a quotient for him. This is I'm just gonna tease this. 84 beers plus your age is something. There's one more piece to the quotient. We're gonna ask if it works for you. It worked for me. It turns out to be something when you add, subtract, and here we go. We're going to do that one next on Uncanceled. This is KCMO Talk Radio. Man, we missed the storms. Didn't get back home until they were all through here, but we could see it at our house. My grill cover had blown into the woods. Some patio furniture had flipped over a little bit. There's like mud all over the windows of the house, so we obviously had a dirt storm with some rain, right? So it was a complete and total mess, and a lot of people lost their lives out in Goodland, Kansas from the winds when they had a huge dust storm and a pile up there. So we drove back in behind it. We dealt with about 6 inches of snow in Flagstaff, Arizona coming through, and I-17 was closed for a couple of hours. That was early Saturday morning. That's the least of anybody's worries. We spent our time waiting for it to reopen. About 12 miles away from the interstate is Sedona, which is one of the coolest places on earth. So we just drove into Sedona and hung out there until we heard the roads were open. So we did just fine, but our thoughts are with a lot of people in the area, not just here in the Kansas City area, but all through the middle section of the country that dealt with all kinds of different problems: high winds, dust storms, snow, storms, tornadoes. It's been a very deadly week. So all the best to everybody out there. Hope it's going okay in your world. So let's lighten it up and have a little bit of fun here with Mark. Mark, we've got this quotient here, this formula that I saw, and I'm told it works every time. So here we go. I asked you before the break to take 84 beers plus your age equals, you want to say it on the air or not?
Yeah,
Do you care?
yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, 84 beers plus your age equals?
124.
Then subtract $40. And that is 124 minus 40 is what?
84.
Okay, what year were you born?
1984.
Works for everybody. How is that possible? Now, what if somebody's already had their birthday this year? Oh, you add the year and then the age. So I think it works even if you've had you haven't had your birthday yet, right?
No, not till
So
December.
neither have I. So what would happen if we did it next year? Well, it's the same. It just changes the quotient every year.
Yeah.
That's nuts, man. 84 beers plus your age minus $40. It's just a little riddle, because who would put beers and age and dollars together like that? Mark's got his calculator out. He's trying it again. He wants to make sure it's right. It says it works for everybody. It worked for me. I did it for a 21-year-old. 21-year-old, the same thing works. plus 84 beers is 95, minus 21.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Love it. That's good stuff. Okay, let's talk NCAA tournament. The brackets are out. And before we get it, I'm not a big, selection committee brackets are a scandal thing. To me, I like looking at the local teams and what they've got. So Missouri is the highest rated team here between our trio that we talk about. K-State's out of the tournament. Missouri's a 6 seed. KU's a 7 seed. Missouri plays Drake, and this is really interesting because Ben McCollum, the coach at Drake, was the coach at Northwest Missouri State in Maryville for 15 years and won 4 national titles. They're the slowest team in the tournament. I don't mean foot speed. Their tempo is the slowest. They hold the ball the longest, and they defend the longest. And all Missouri wants to do is score 100 points. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, if Missouri is not hitting their threes, I think they're going to lose in round 1.
Drake's good, man.
Yeah, they are.
30-3. What they're good at is what a lot of basketball coaches will tell you is the most important part of basketball this time of year, and that is to make your opponent play poorly. It's no more complicated than that. Make sure they have a worse day than us. Nobody knows the arenas and the gyms. Nobody has a home court advantage for the most part. No players are ever really comfortable out there playing in this tournament. Go make the other guy play worse than you, which sounds like a terrible way to approach sports, but it works.
And they're playing in Wichita, so both fan bases should be able to drive there if they want to.
And Texas Tech's there too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Texas Tech's not far. Lubbock's not that far from Wichita.
Yeah.
There's going to be some good fans. That's going to be one of the better venues, I think, for this tournament. The Kansas Jayhawks play Arkansas. I feel like KU plays John Calipari 8 times a year, but Bill Self and John Calipari head-to-head are 6-6. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Wouldn't you have thought Bill Self had a winning record?
Yeah, I probably would have thought that.
Yeah. They played an exhibition October 25th of this past year, a game that didn't count. Arkansas won 85-69. That doesn't really matter. A player named Boogie Fland is back for Arkansas. He's one of their better players. He's been out for a long time. But this pod that they got sent to in Rhode Island is Hall of Fame coaches. It's Bill Self, John Calipari, and Rick Pitino from St. John's. These are going to be the games on TV, folks. Like KU's on CBS. They want the coaches to sell this pod. That's a great lineup of coaches, man.
Yeah, it should be some good games, too, I think.
What did you think of the brackets in general? Did you think this Carolina thing was a scandal that North Carolina is in?
Yeah, North Carolina shouldn't be in.
Because they only have one win over a Tier 1 team, right? And West Virginia had how many? 5?
I believe they had
4 or 5,
6?
yeah. West Virginia was the first team out, and that's the one everybody's screaming about. It is the third year in a row the Big 12 has had the first team out of the tournament. And 4 years ago, the Big 12 had the second team out in the tournament. And now people are starting to ask, is there some bias? Well, the committee chair is the athletic director from North Carolina, and his team made it in, presumably as the last team taken, right? We assume they're the last ones in, and he got a $100,000 bonus for them being in. They say the committee chair leaves the room whenever they discuss the team. I ain't buying any of that.
Sneaky.
I've never bought any of that. Have you?
No. It's a scandal.
It's money on the line, man. And you know what? The TV networks want North Carolina in as well. They don't want West Virginia.
That's true.
They want North Carolina, not West Virginia. It's the way that it is. Thanks for listening to Uncanceled. The debut of The Vince Show is up next. Vince Colonnese. I think you're going to like this a lot. Thanks for listening to KCMO Talk Radio. It's The Vince Show next.